I said I would come back to the Italian situation after some sort of conclusion had been drawn. Well, if anything, we are farther from a conclusion than we were prior to the initial elections, but here we go again anyway. In my last video, I posited that a coalition between the Five Star Movement and the League would be a bit pie in the sky. I may have discussed how interesting such an experiment would potentially have been, but averred that policy differences and the target demographic of both parties would make a coalition difficult, if not impossible. I thought a PD five-star coalition could be a possibility if the PD gave the five-star movement support for a minority government, but in the end this wasn't to be. Instead, I predicted we'd either see another grand coalition a la Forza Italia and the PD, or a hung parliament and technocratic rule. Well, I'll claim victory here, as we have the latter, even if it ended up occurring in a way I'd never have expected. Why would Salvini opt for a coalition with the five-star movement? This is what my thought process was, and in some ways still is. He'd have to play second fiddle to Di Maio, he'd have to abandon hopes of becoming Prime Minister, he'd be risking his rising support if the government went awry. No. For me, it seemed Salvini had too much to lose and would be better off steering clear of government in order to further consolidate his place as Italy's right-wing premier. Not only that though, entering government is incredibly risky business in Italy, and would likely do more damage than good to the five-star movement also. Political novices would surely flounder in the vast web of bureaucratic messiness and the cack-handedness of Italian politics. But, lo and behold, both parties went for it, and up until a few days ago it seemed Italy was to become Europe's first all-populist government. There is one problem with all of this though. I knew then, as I still know now, that Salvini does not want to enter government without his premiership. A coalition with the five-star movement is not where Salvini wanted to be, in an ideal situation anyway, and it was only begrudgingly that he found himself on the cusp of government after one of the longest negotiations in the history of the Italian Republic. The so-called crisis in Italy has nothing to do with EU intervention. Nothing to do with a trigger-happy president ignoring constitutional law, which he didn't do by the way, but everything to do with Salvini forcing the hand of the political establishment, calling for snap elections and raking in the gains. It really is as simple as that. Indeed, we have historical parallels here to the 1994 government. The League collapsed the government with Forza Italia and went into the opposition after Berlusconi's softly approach to corruption embarrassed Bossi and their anti-corruption electorate. As a result, the League's vote share boomed and averted the inevitable disaster of Forza Italia stealing away their northern constituents. The League has always been an especially belligerent, vociferously populist outfit, and this is merely business as usual for the party. Only now, the five-star movement are the probable losers, not Berlusconi. Well, maybe, anyway. All this talk of a European establishment cracking down in fear of a populist revolt has a grain of truth. Sure, the Italian political elite, now essentially moribund, without a convincing narrative and beleaguered by decades of political decay, was surely horrified at the prospect of two anti-establishment parties joining forces and draining the swamp, proverbially speaking. However, to reduce this entire hullabaloo to ideology over praxis would be incredibly misleading. Let's put it this way. Mattarella did not challenge the cornerstone principles of the coalition. This was a disagreement over one minister, one frankly incredibly qualified economist that had many a bad word to say about the euro. However, this wasn't against protocol. The president has every right to veto ministerial appointments and has done so without quibble at numerous times throughout the Republic's history. Again, this is a point to hammer home. Mattarella hasn't really done anything wrong, not legally at least, and all this talk of potential impeachment is nothing but hot air. This is not a constitutional issue. To provide some context, President Scalfaro in 1994, for example, was quick to veto the decision of Berlusconi to appoint his infamous personal lawyer Cesare Previti to the role of Justice Minister. What makes this such a big deal is Salvini's reaction and not the presidential veto. Furthermore, behind the scenes presidential machinations aren't all that novel either. When Berlusconi was, for all intents and purposes, Forced to resign in 2011 and replaced by Mario Monti and his band of technocrats to help implement Italy's mandatory austerity measures, Giorgio Napolitano, then president, was integral to ensuring Monti's opportune placement for the role. Moreover, it seems he was working closely with Europe, namely one Angela Merkel, to make this happen. This did little to shake up the internal order of the nation, although it did give Berlusconi a new axe to grind on the campaign trail. So, to wit, the difference today is Salvini's obstinacy. Berlusconi resigned and stepped aside, albeit with his characteristic recalcitrance. A presidential veto is an expected annoyance to any prospective government that is usually greeted with a lackadaisical reappointment. So, why did Salvini throw the baby out with the bathwater? If there was anything he wanted, it was new elections, and this move basically guarantees that. The prime ministerial chosen one for the impending new cabinet, Carlo Cottarelli, couldn't be further from the wills of the Italian populace and represents the tired same old, with allegiances to the IMF and the fiscal strictures of the EU above all else. To ensure his tenure, he needs to win a vote of confidence from the Italian parliament. This, of course, is nothing but fantasy, considering the majority is held by the Five Star Movement and the League. Berlusconi's Forza Italia has also suggested that they would not vote in favour of the move. So, unless Mattarella, the League and Five Star make peace, new elections seem to be the only route. Not only do new elections secure the status quo of the dominance of the two populist parties, but also give these parties the opportunity to dig their heels in and sediment their place as the new vanguard of Italian politics, stealing even more votes from the establishment. If anything could lend credibility to Salvini's platform, it's this: a meddling Europe that won't let Italy go its own way. And now Salvini can turn these elections into a referendum on the actions of Mattarella and a new reign of technocracy. This means stealing more votes from Berlusconi, perhaps eating into Five Star Movement's vote share, and above all else, bringing him one step closer to the role of Prime Minister. Indeed, if I were to be especially cynical, I could say maybe the contract released by the League and Five Star was never meant to be a programme for governance. Maybe the promises made were impossible promises and a mere continuation of the campaign trail. Perhaps new elections were the intended goal to finally stamp the established parties into the dust once and for all, heralding a third republic and a monumental paradigm shift for Italy. Well, now I'm letting the latent conspiracy theorist in me run away in thought, but still. I always think it's worth asking, who profits from all this? If there's one thing that's for certain, it isn't Mattarella, nor the political establishment. And maybe not by accident. Maybe this was the plan all along. Thanks a lot for watching this video. If you liked the video, don't forget to click like, and please do subscribe if you haven't done already. If you didn't, click dislike, leave a comment, tell me where I went wrong. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons. It's thanks to you guys that these videos are regular. If it's within your means to do so and you like what I do, then please do consider becoming a patron yourself. Thanks a lot again for watching, and until next time.